لا إله إلا الله محمد رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، وصلى الله وسلم على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه الطيبين الطاهرين. اللهم لا سهل إلا ما جعلته سهلا، وأنت تجعل الحزن إن شئت سهلا. يقول رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم: إنما الأعمال بالنيات. Please do place a sincere intention in your hearts to learn the Islamic knowledge, wanting the rewards from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and welcome to the Islamic Creed Rhymes series. Tonight we will be explaining the ninth slide, lines 33 to 36. We're quickly coming to the midpoint of the 96 lines, and tonight we will be exploring the attribute of knowledge of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And I hope that you were watching with us just an hour ago the 38th Nawawi hadith, and I did ask you all to join in, and inshallah you're all tuned in and you've had your coffee, and we can now start for a 15 minutes quick lesson on this important topic of the attribute of knowledge of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So these lines read, God knows all there is, all that will be or did pass. God only knows all this, such knowledge no other has. So this is very important to talk about the knowledge of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And like I always do, what I'm going to do, I'm going to read all the 9 slides very quickly, and I'm going to shrink my image there, and I'm going to take you back to all of them, inshallah ta'ala, starting from slide number 1. For those of you who haven't been joining in with us, now you can get a chance to see what the Islamic Creed series is all about. So let's read them together, and I'm reading them on purpose because by the time we finish, you would have read them so many times, and it'll become very, very easy for you. And I would love to see some adults videotaping themselves and also sharing and sending them to us so that I can put them here in our lessons, like I'm going to do at the end of this lesson with a girl yesterday who did put in the video for 4 slides, and you're going to watch her recite them. So let's read them. Every saint pubescent who heard that except God no deities exist, that he sent Muhammad to the world, must embrace Islam and not resist. Islam is to believe God is one without any partner or need. God exists before time begun and before space indeed. God's existence is not assigned and has no beginning or end. He is not imagined in the mind, and notion logic does commend. Creations do not create, God created all of them. None does he permeate, nothing resembles him. God created earth and skies, man, trees, the moon, the sun, all bodies of limits in size, all in need of God the One. Need indeed is an attribute in each body must be found. A logic sense does not refute, hence bodying God is unsound. God's power relates to possibles. He creates by it and annihilates. It does not relate to impossibles or that which logic necessitates. God willed all good and bad, both he willed and created. Good he ordered to be had, bad avoidance he mandated. God knows all there is, all that will be or that pass. God only knows all this, such knowledge no other has. And this is the creed, the 9 slides for the creed thus far. And we have 24 of these slides, and I want to endeavor and finish all of them within maybe Ramadan or past Ramadan by a bit, because we won't have enough to finish. Maybe we'll just touch on it because 24, we still have 15, 16 to go, and we'll see how we go. The girl that did recite them yesterday, that's her, and I'm going to leave you to watch that for a few seconds, inshallah. I'm gonna just shift my image to the top there. Okay, and her name is Taleen Sabiyuddin, and she did wonderfully yesterday when she sent me these. I was very proud of her, and she's such a good girl. She memorized 4 slides, so let's hear her together, inshallah.
Every sane pupil who heard that except God no deities exist, that he sent Muhammad to the world must embrace Islam and not resist. Islam is to believe God is one, without any partner or need. God exists before time began and before space indeed. God's existence is not a sight and has no beginning or end. He is not imagined in the mind, a notion logic does command. Creations do not create, God created all of them. None does he permeate, nothing resembles him.
As you can see, barakallahu fiha, she memorized the 4 slides, and I know that her mother is working on her too, and that she's actually working on herself. She wants to memorize all of them, and that's what we need to do so that we can get as many kids as we can possibly have memorizing the Islamic creed. Now, when we talk about the attribute of knowledge of Allah, I say God knows all there is, all that will be, or that pass. Now, the attribute of knowledge of Allah is an attribute that is eternal and everlasting, meaning without beginning or end, and is an attribute that is due to Him subhanahu wa ta'ala. And due to Him means that no one gave Him His knowledge. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in the Quran, وَهُوَ بِكُلِّ شَيْءٍ عَلِيمٌ. And also Allah ta'ala said, وَكَانَ اللَّهُ بِكُلِّ شَيْءٍ مُحِيطًا, meaning nothing escapes Allah's knowledge. So we say that Allah Ta'ala knows all there was, Allah Ta'ala knows all there is, Allah Ta'ala knows all that will be, Allah Ta'ala knows that what is not, if it were to be, how, when, why it will be, and so on. So, and this in Arabic we say, إِنَّ اللَّهَ يَعْلَمُ مَا كَانَ وما يكون وما لا يكون وما لو كان كيف كان يكون. يعني والله تعالى knows ما كان in the past, ما يكون now, وما سيكون وما لا يكون أن لو كان كيف كان يكون, meaning, and even these things that are not happening now, if they were to happen, like me giving this lesson in Mecca, which is not happening. I'm giving it from Sydney, Australia. But if that were to be the case, Allah would know it as well. So nothing escapes the knowledge of Allah. And Allah's knowledge is not like our knowledge. Our knowledge is a knowledge that we acquire, and therefore it increases and decreases. Allah's knowledge does not increase or decrease. If you say Allah's knowledge increases, you are accusing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and attributing to Him ignorance before He knew this added knowledge. And this is blasphemous, because any word that assigns to Allah weakness is blasphemous in Islam. And if you say Allah's knowledge decreases, you're saying that Allah became ignorant at a later stage. And again, it is referring ignorance and assigning it to Allah, and this is blasphemous as well. And when I say God only knows all this, such knowledge no other has, this is a very important topic. Before we get into these 2 lines, I just want to read to you these 2 ayat. قال تعالى الآن خفف الله عنكم وعلم أن فيكم ضعفا. This ayah in the Quran in Surah Al-Anfal does not mean, or any of these ayat that may give the impression that ilmullah yatajaddad, meaning that the knowledge of Allah is something that is renewed, or an addition, a layer of knowledge is added to His knowledge. These ayat that may give such an impression, we are to stop and know what the scholars said about the veracity of the meaning of these ayat. And this ayah means that Allah Ta'ala knew eternally that you had weakness within you, and made it easier upon you now, and the now for them, the creation. So the making of it easy for them, the creating of that, the making it easy for them, I should say, happened at a time, but it's not the knowledge of Allah. Allah knew that eternally. And another ayah which is وَلَنَبْلُوَنَّكُمْ حَتَّى نَعْلَمَ الْمُجَاهِدِينَ مِنْكُمْ وَالصَّابِرِينَ. This ayah does not mean that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will descend upon them trials because he needs to know who are the mujahideen and who are the sabirin. No, it means لنميز بينهم ويظهر للعباد من الصابر ومن المجاهد, meaning it is so that these trials will befall them, so that it is clear and apparent to the people and not to Allah. So the word حتى نعلم, meaning so that we make it apparent to the people so that they see who is a true mujahid and sabir, meaning patient with the trials that Allah Ta'ala descended upon them. But the last two lines before we finish our lesson tonight, God only knows all this, such knowledge no other has. This is important because there are those out there who say that the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam knows everything that Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala knows, that He knows al-ghaib as Allah knows it. This is, in short, very quickly, very directly, very explicitly blasphemous. It is an action of disbelief. We do not equate between Allah and Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And even when we say, "Oh Allah, I ask you by Muhammad," we are not leveling between Allah and Muhammad. We recognize that Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is the best prophet of Allah, the best of the creation, but it doesn't rise above that and go to a status to equal the status of Allah in any attribute, albeit they're talking about the ilm. We do not do that. And the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam says in the hadith on the authority of Imam al-Nasa'i, he says, لا ترفعوني فوق منزلتي, meaning don't go on and aggrandize me and amplify my status nonsensically, meaning without any reason, without any need, without any promise. He is the best of all the creations of Allah. He is the master of all the prophets. He is the master of the first and the latters, meaning from all the nations, from the time of Adam and until the end of time. He is the number one creation, and that's amongst the people and also amongst the angels and amongst all the creations. He ranks first in all the creations in terms of status, of how elevated his status is. And Allah Ta'ala says, لا يحيطون بشيء من علمه إلا بما شاء, meaning they will only know what Allah Ta'ala willed for them to know. And Allah Ta'ala says, وعنده مفاتح الغيب لا يعلمها إلا هو. And this ayah is clear that Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala is the one who has kept the knowledge of all things to Him Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, and only made aware of some parts to His creations in accordance with His will Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. And Allah tamaddaha nafsahu, meaning Allah Ta'ala praised and glorified Himself by saying Alimul ghaybi wa shahada. So where would be this tamadduh if they say that Allah and the Prophet are of equal state and they both know the same thing? There will be no special meaning to the ayah Alimul ghaybi wa shahada, in the sense of Allah praising Himself that He only is the one who knows al-ghayb wa shahada. And that's also another point to make to prove that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam does not know. And the last ayah to seal this issue, the Prophet Allah Ta'ala, in telling about what the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, Allah Ta'ala said in the Quran, in attabi'u illa ma yuha ilay, meaning the Prophet is confessing that he only knows and following what Allah Ta'ala revealed to him, telling us on the other hand of this sentence in the Quran that there are things that he does not know because he's only following that which Allah revealed to him, which means there are things that Allah did not reveal to him. And that's a clear admission on the part of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam that he does not know everything that Allah Ta'ala knows. I wanted to give you these ayat and the hadith because you know this, you know that there are people out there that will come at you and say, no, the Prophet is so high that he knows everything that Allah knows. And there are millions of people who have such a belief, wal-iyadhu billah. And this is wrong. This is not part of Islam. This is what we call al-ghulu. And al-ghulu, it is to go way beyond what reason, sense, religion, Quran, and Sunnah say for no apparent reason, but to inflate and aggrandize without premise and without proof and without reason, without necessity, without need. There's no need. The Prophet is the best of the creations of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَقُلْ رَبِّ زِدْنِي عِلْمًا. When the Prophet says زِدْنِي عِلْمًا, does it tell you that he is, when he asked Allah, oh Allah, increase my knowledge, does it really leave you with an impression that the Prophet knows everything that Allah knows? Otherwise, why would the Prophet say, why would the Prophet say, وَقُلْ رَبِّ زِدْنِي عِلْمًا? Why would he say that if he knew everything that Allah Ta'ala knows? And Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala knows best. We will read these one more time, as has been our habit from the very beginning, inshaAllah Ta'ala. I think I left my image on top all this time without realizing on OBS, and sorry about that. I'll just shrink it down. And now I'll take you through the PowerPoint. We'll read them one more time, and that'll be the end of our lesson for tonight. Make sure that you memorize these creeds. And I'm really serious for those of you who feel embarrassed or think, oh, no, I'm not going to do that. Do put the camera like this and videotape yourself and say them all, but don't put a paper behind it. I want to know that you've memorized them, and I want to make a list of all the people that are memorizing, and then we're going to try and hit 100 people to memorize them, and then maybe 200, and then maybe 500. We got to start our bit, guys, but in the English world. As I told you yesterday, in the Arab world, this is a common tradition. Somebody authors something that is easy to memorize, and you've got all the children in the Arab world or the ethnic world who've learned Arabic, like Indonesia and Pakistan and these countries, that will get all these little rhymes and poems in the religion, and they will make sure that the kids memorize them. We didn't do that in the English world. That's because it's a new idea for us that we are here to stay, and our kids are here to stay, and their kids, inshallah, they will be here to stay. It's not like we're now migrants and we're going all back to our homelands. So if we don't start with this tradition that was in Arabic very prevalent, and it still is in English, in the English world, I don't know when we're going to do that. And to protect the religion, we must do that. So I'm going to read them. Do take a video of yourselves if you put the effort in, male or female, of course, or children. It's fantastic because I want to make a list of all these people, and I want to prepare prizes, and I want to send a certificate where I will stamp, okay, because I'm the author of these lines, and I want you to have it, me saying that I did hear you and you did recite them. So let's read them together. They read, the Islamic creed rhymes. They read, every saint pubescent who heard that except God no deities exist, that he sent Muhammad to the world must embrace Islam and not resist. Islam is to believe God is one without any partner or need. God exists before time begun and before space indeed. God's existence is not assigned and has no beginning or end. He is not imagined in the mind, a notion logic thus commend. Creations do not create, God created all of them. None does he permeate, nothing resembles him. God created earth and skies, man, trees, the moon, the sun, all bodies of limits in size, all in need of God, the one. Need indeed is an attribute in each body must be found. A logic sense does not refute, hence bodying God is unsound. God's power relates to possibles. He creates by it and annihilates. It does not relate to impossibles or that which logic necessitates. God willed all good and bad, both he willed and created. Good he ordered to be had, bad avoidance he mandated. God knows all there is, all that will be, or that pass. God only knows all this, such knowledge no other has. So here you've got it. Tomorrow, I'm sure you're thinking what would be the 10th slide, some of you, and tomorrow we'll be sharing with you the 10th slide. Please do memorize them and send me the video. And one last thing, that little finger, don't forget to share. Yesterday we didn't have many shares, maybe about 50. The previous night we had about 100 shares, so I don't know what's going on. with the shares, but you need to spread this knowledge in the English world to every Muslim family that speaks English. And if you don't do that, know this: others are trying to infiltrate those families and give them, false knowledge. And it's really a race between the people of the truth in Islam and the people who claim to be Muslims. Do your bit. You're responsible, as I am. Barakallahu fikum. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I'll see you tomorrow at 9:30, inshallah, with slide number 10. Assalamu alaikum.